Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, and now welcome to Vacuum Tube Amplifiers in Chapter 3 from the 1950 Amateur Radio Handbook. This part here, they start out talking about the grid. So the grid, they're talking about that element or added component of the vacuum tube right here. And, they just explain kind of what that does. I never really understood what's the purpose of a grid in a vacuum tube. And they start off kind of explaining it in a basic level, which is good for me. This part here, I guess I might as well read it. Within normal operating range of a tube, the plate current will increase when plate voltage is increased. The reason why all electrons are not drawn to the plate when a small positive voltage is placed on it is that the space charge, which is negative, counteracts the effect of positive charge on the plate. The higher the positive charge, the more effective the space charge is overcome. You're talking about a thing called space charge. I'm just guessing what they mean by space charge is the open space between the cathode and the plate and the energy in that space. Control the effect of the space charge. And this is kind of key here. If the grid is given a positive voltage with respect to the cathode, the positive charge will tend to neutralize the negative space charge. The result is that any selected plate voltage, more electrons will flow to the plate than if the grid were not present. So the grid seems to be, just for me, not knowing anything about electronics, like kind of like a governor for electron flow in a vacuum tube. And that's just the basic idea why a grid is in a tube. To me, it just seems like it's to I don't know, kind of like a throttle, or not throttle, but like a governor for electron flow to make the electron flow happen more efficiently and null out that space charge, I guess. Does that sound right, folks? I don't know. And my little observation was correct. It says right here, it is obvious that the grid can act as a valve to control the flow of plate current. Actually, the grid has a much more greater effect on plate current flow than does plate voltage. A small change in grid voltage is just as effective in bringing about a given change in plate current as a large change in plate voltage. So it looks like the key to this is, and this is, if I'm wrong, slap me. For amplification, the fact that a small voltage acting on the grid is equivalent to a large voltage acting on the plate indicates the possibility of amplification with the triode tube. That is, generation of a large voltage by a small one. So a small voltage activates a large voltage, or you can control it to really jam out and amplify. Okay, so that's kind of, I guess, the crux of having a grid in a tube, and how they explain how that is amplification. A little voltage on the grid changing can induce a higher current on the plate, I guess. So the basic idea of amplification in a vacuum tube, or triode. The amplified power or voltage output from the tube is not obtained from the tube itself, but from the source of EMF connected between its plate and cathode. The tube simply controls the power from this source, changing it to the desired form. So, in a mini conclusion of what we just read, whatever you want to amplify is connected to the anode and the plate somehow. We'll get into that later, I hope. But the grid is in between the anode and the plate to control, as a valve to control the amplification of that source that you want to amplify that is connected to the anode and the grid, I guess. Does that sound right? I don't know.